Okay. Thank you.
Greetings, Moors. Peace and love. Peace and blessings. This is Toriano ObaShango-El, and this call has actually been requested. Can somebody put their phone on mute, please? Thank you.
Hey guys, we still have some background noise. Someone's phone isn't on mute. If you don't know how to put it on mute, you can do it from your actual phone. If some singing or someone's TV is on, if you can step out, go to another room, or put your phone on mute. Thank you.
All right. Once again, peace and love, peace and blessings, everybody. This is Toriano ObaShango-El, and this call was actually requested quite some time.
Karen Udell, Shady L.
Put your phone on mute.
Okay, mute me.
Man.
We might as well just give it a few minutes, man. Our people bad on time, man.
And maybe when you usually call as callers join, it's automatically muted. I'm not sure if that's an option, but that usually
It is. Mo, do you know how to do that? Because I don't have access to do that. If you could just go in and just mute everyone and then unmute Toriano while he's talking, and then when Aseer joins, unmute him.
Okay, let me see if I can work that out.
Okay.
This is Sister Karen. I don't know. What should I do? I'm trying to mute this.
I don't know how to do this.
This how you would do it. Don't turn that camera off.
Yeah, just mute your phone. Just mute your own personal phone. You should still be able to hear.
Okay, I'm on my computer. That's why. Okay, mute.
Okay.
Empress Rose, just let me know when you want me to start.
Okay, let's give everybody a second to let's see if Mo.
All righty. Y'all can hear me?
Hey, Toriano, I got everybody muted.
Yes, I can hear you.
Here we go. They can unmute themselves.
Okay. All righty, everybody. Peace and love, peace and blessings. Once again, this is Toriano ObaShango-El. And okay. Wow. People still coming in? Okay.
Yeah. We're good, though. They coming in muted. But they can unmute themselves. Yep.
Okay.
Rose, you're on mute.
Good. Our people need to learn what being on time means, man. Bad. You know. For real. All righty. Peace and love, peace and blessings, everybody. Once again, this is Toriano ObaShango-El. I was asked to do this call as well with Brother Aseer. Hopefully the brother is able to make it to the call. And we just want to talk about what's going on in the current situation of the corporate United States democracy and the 50 corporate states democracies and how it affects Moors and what we need to be doing at this point in time. As it stands right now, many people have completed the steps that I gave for people if they chose to go that message, dealing with blood, nationality, and solvency, dealing with silver bonds, and the group is steadily growing on Facebook. We have more and more people coming in, as they complete the steps. And right now, to be honest with you, we don't really have any dog in that fight in regards to the the factions that are fighting over in the United States democracy. And right now, I'm quite sure you've been familiarized with what they call the deep state. And the deep state deals with senators and congressmen, as well as international, state, county, and municipal public officials who have used and abused the system for their own selfish gain, even to the point of human trafficking, child pedophilia, and this stuff called adrenochrome, which is like a drug harvested from human bodies that they like to take and use. So then you got those who still, to the best of their ability, try to hold on to the tenets of the Constitution for the United States of America, Republic of 1787, and its principles, and trying to bring it back online. To the best of my knowledge and what I am able to ascertain, I cannot reveal my source, but my source is former military like myself, and he still has contacts within the armed forces that have told him that, yes, there is some infighting going on, one pro-New World Order and one pro-United States of America Republic, and all of these, the child trafficking and enslavement of the human population via this fiat note, things of that nature, they're trying to put an end to it. So I think as it stands right now, us as Moors, it is best that we stay on the outside looking in, but there's also been talk of us possibly trying to aid and assist in an indirect manner the Republic for coming back online. Now, most of y'all might want to say, well, why would we want to do that? Well, this is a matter of contract law. And right now, we have the ultimate contract with them. It is the Treaty of Peace and Friendship of 1836, United States Statutes at Large, Volume 8, page 484 through 487, Treaty Series 244-2, Bevan's Book of Treaties, Volume 9, page 1286. So if we were to assist those factions who are fighting for the United States of America Republic and its Constitution, as it was established in 1787 through 1789, it is strictly on a contractual matter. Why? Because our contract is with them. The Empire's contract is with them, and it was made perpetual in 1836. So there will be further discussion between specific groups of Moors who brought this idea up as to how we would go about that. At this time, I don't have any tidbits of information to give you on that. If you have not finished your process, you need to finish up as soon as possible and be counted. Right now, I'm going to say it. I'm going to step out there and say it. I feel that what I have put together and what Brother Aseer has put together, probably the most solid foundation, as well as the original temple, Moorish Science Temple of America, 1928, as was established by the Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali. These are the three probably most solid factions that we as Moors have. The reason why I say that is because Noble Drew Ali is the one that brought the principles of nationality. I deal strictly from the Paleo-American, autochthonous, aborigine, Moor, and pre-Columbian Moor perspective in regards to history going back into the Holocene and Pleistocene epoch, as far as us being here on the land, genetic markers, archaeological finds, paleontological finds from a scientific perspective, and as well as a historical perspective, ancient historical perspective. And Aseer He's primarily from the historical perspective. So we have all three bases primarily covered. So if you haven't finished up, now is the time to try to do your best and get done. I warn people that this stuff, I've been warning people, blowing the trumpet for the longest, ever since the early 2000s and the late 1990s, that this day was going to come. You know, now it's here at our doorstep. And you got a lot of people who are going to be fearful. They don't know what's going on. And it's not that they didn't have the ability to know what's going on. It just means that they chose to avail themselves to ignorance and foolishness. Clubbing, sports and entertainment, all types of distractions. Whereas if they had a smartphone or if they had a tablet or even a computer, the world of education was right at their fingertips, and they chose not to take advantage of it. So I'm going to say this: don't overextend yourself to where you put yourself in jeopardy trying to help someone who for the majority of their time have shunned knowledge and availed themselves to ignorance. I'll say that again. Don't overextend yourself to where you put yourself in jeopardy to aid those who have shunned knowledge and have availed themselves to ignorance. Drop a seed and keep it moving. Drop a seed and keep it moving. If they say, well, where do I find out about this? They got ObaShango-El.com. I'm sure Brother Aseer has some outlets where they can get information. But the knowledge is out there. So don't stop your program to make sure that you're 100% solid just to aid someone who chose to be in the current condition that they're in. Okay? Let me see what else. As far as Banksia Consul, the Grand Vizier is making strides day by day. He has some things going on that right now I cannot speak on, but it looks that we're going to be on the international stage here pretty soon. So what we're looking at doing is those who have completed the process, the way it is structured, you're eligible for beneficiary status of Banksia Consul. That is currently being developed and perfected. And there's 2-tier statuses. And we can get into those at a later date. But the way we're moving, it looks that we're going to be the premier credit outlet in the globe. And the reason being is because those who have completed it have tied themselves back to the soil, the land rights, mineral rights, water rights, air, sky, space rights, third-party rights and third-party beneficiary rights to every contract, arrangement, or agreement made, whether public or private, that takes place upon the Paleo-American autochthonous aborigine Moors land due to the non-compensation for the use of our lands, raw materials, and natural resources. So, in essence, we'll be more powerful, inshallah, than the Federal Reserve. So, I think that's pretty much all I want to cover at this time. If you have to travel, let me say this. If you have to travel, keep your status documents on you, okay? Keep your public record status documents on you. Also, make sure you have a copy of the treaty, 1836, Article 14. Article 14 is what you want to enforce, okay? Also, you can let these people know that you do have a federal contract. You've given consideration for that contract, which is the silver. And I'm going to go a little bit into those bonds here after I say this. And you can look up United States case law, United States versus Note, Knote, and United States versus Jessup, Jessop. UP. Both of those are in the Law and Related Matters folder in the OneDrive. And you can go and read about contracts, whether express or implied, with the United States, as well as bonds. So some of y'all are already familiar with those. I've already shared those in the group, the Paleo-American group. So make sure you keep your status documents with you, a copy of them, preferably public record. If you've already filed, you could go to, if you filed in Pulaski County, I do know you can go and print the PDF off, and you keep a copy of that 1836 treaty with you. Article 14 is what you need to enforce. So, as far as your bonds, many of y'all may not know it, but some of y'all do, because I revealed it to y'all a couple of days ago. The reason why I drafted them the way I did, because what you're actually doing is the law of the contract, the place of the contract, and the law of the contract is written into your bond, which is the republic. So in all actuality, what you have actually done is fund the return of the republic, which in essence is going to make them come back to the treaty or the contract that we have with them, the empire and the United States of America. So I'm going to open the floor. If there are any questions, please text your questions to the number that's provided, and I will answer them to the best of my ability. I yield the floor.
Okay, Toriano, we have a couple of questions. For one, we want to know, are you still completing bond packages for people that would like to go through the steps, or the 15 steps?
Yes, I am. I'm glad you brought that up. Yes, I am currently. Right now, the Grand Vizier, Bankshir Kansu, he's on a mission to make me retire. He said, I've done enough work for the movement and it's time for me to sit down. So I will be doing that until liquidation comes. And then I do have some successors who will be taking up that mantle to do the bonds. And that will be announced at a later date. But as it stands right now, yes, I currently am.
Perfect. So can you also share your website so people can get familiar with some of those documents that you were speaking of?
Yes. My website is ObaShango-El.com. That is O as in Oscar, B as in Bravo, A as in Alpha, S as in Sierra, H as in Hotel, A as in Alpha, N as in November, G as in Golf, O as in Oscar, E as in Echo, L as in Lima.com. And what I would like for you to particularly pay close attention to is on the left side of the home page, there are two sections. One deals with what's called Project WAMCO. Project WAMCO is an acronym for Weapons of Mass Color of Law Destruction. And pay attention to the links from 1 through 11. And then below that, on the same side of the page, is another section that talks about Droit Jus Sanguinis status upon the land, and study those links as well. In there, you will find the Kraken. You will find the Kraken 1 and 2. You will find the 14th Amendment fraud.
Hello? Peace.
Can somebody?
Greetings, Aseer.
Islam, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Can you? Okay.
Can you see me?
I can't see you. I'm online. I can't. Yes, we can see you, Aseer. We can.
Yes. Okay, cool.
Okay. We're gonna let ObaShango-El finish his state. He was answering his questions, and then he'll chime you in when he's finished. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, you will find the PDF I put together a couple of years back, the pure 14th Amendment study, and it deals with the fraud with the 14th Amendment. And can y'all hear me?
Yeah. Sarah, we're gonna put you on mute. Or Sarah, could you mute yourself out?
Yeah, hold on.
There we go. We're good.
Okay. It deals with the fraud of the 14th Amendment. You'll also find the evidence of where they had subverted the republic into the democracy. All of those links, man, I advise those who are not familiar with my site to go through that. That is a study guide. That is a syllabus for you to know what the hell is going on. Avail yourself to that knowledge. And link number 11, the congressional records of Steve King, June 23rd, 2010, on how the birth certificate was used as leverage to tie you to the debt. So all of that evidence is there. The records are there. The Jacob Thorkelson records are there. Take the time and go through it. As far as the Jus Sanguinis, links under the Jus Sanguinis section, you need to learn about who the original people are that populated this land or who was actually from here. Why? This is the reason why we do the descent. Because first in time, first in line. Okay? So it's time for us to return back to a state of what's called restitution and post-millennium, getting back at the top of the pyramid of who this land actually belongs to. It's not the $5 Indians. It's the Europeans who paid to get on the Dawes rolls. No. The blood will tell you that they are liars. Okay? It's not the mulattoes who are mixed in with the proto-Mongoloid and later became mixed with Europeans to where they bleached themselves out. And they're still talking about the Indians. Are they our kin? Yes, they are Asiatic, but they are bleached out and they're telling a lie like they are the original people, knowing damn well and fully well that when our cousins from Asia come over here, they was 3 times the shade of the Ace of Spades. Okay? So it's to put who's who in their proper status back on this land. And right now, we're at the top of the food chain. We're the top of the pyramid. We are the originals. Haplogroup L, mitochondrial. We're the originals coming up out of this, okay? So avail yourself to that knowledge. If you want to learn what's in place for Banksia Khonsu, you can scroll down to the very bottom of the page. And people, please go to the very bottom of the page. Most people, I don't know why they don't go to the very bottom of the page. Very bottom means very bottom. So you can't scroll anymore. And then go to the right, and you can click on bonded and secured, and you can see how Banksia Khonsu is set up. That is going to be our major commercial structure that we move through in trust fashion to enforce our status upon this soil, okay? So that's pretty much it on the site. I have also, if you go to Toriano's OneDrive, I have a plethora of information in there, about 73, 74 gigs of information. The folders are all organized. Go and educate yourself on pretty much any topic you want. And then those who are starting the process, you can click underneath my picture, ObaShango-El's method, download the 2 PDFs, and there you go. Follow the instructions. But I will say this. If you are not a reader, if you are a person who doesn't really like to read, then quit before you start. Our people are going to have to, get back into reading. You know, YouTube is fine, but you're going to have to start taking time out to read. Stop being lazy. You know, there was a time when our people, were punished for reading, okay? Stop being lazy. Avail yourself to this knowledge and quit being distracted, because right now, the United States democracy is running a game of bread and circus on you. Bread and circus. If you don't know what that term means, you need to go look it up. This is the same thing that the Roman Empire did to its citizens while they were collapsing in the background. They kept them fed, fat, and entertained. Okay? So that's all I want to say about the site.
Wait a minute.
Any other questions?
Yeah, real quick, you said that's bread, B-R-E-A-D, and circus?
Bread and circus.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. They kept them fed, fat, and entertained in the Colosseum. That's all the people cared about while the whole infrastructure of the Roman Empire was collapsing. This is the same thing, just history repeating itself.
So with that being said, here's another question. How do you feel about we've discussed it amongst ourselves and we have our own opinion, but can you speak on the Republican government or whatever proposing this quote-unquote stimulus package for individuals that are filing. So basically, it looks like they're telling people, okay, we're going to give you this money, and it's going to be between $600 to $1,200, not necessarily a month, but for a couple of times to help you get your stuff back on track. But it also is tied to people filing unemployment and people who have filed 2018 tax returns. Can you speak on that a little bit?
Yes, okay. First thing is there is no such thing as unemployment. There is no such thing as unemployment. Let me explain to you what I mean by that. These corporations, when you go and give your labor to them, they're not paying you anything. Why? Because the moment you give them that Social Security number tied to the ens legis, automatically it made them a trustee in the bankruptcy. The only thing they're doing is operating in trustee capacity to discharge the debt, multiplied by the hours of labor that you have given them to go to your trust, redeem those funds, and pay you out of your own stuff, okay? So there is no such thing as unemployment. Unemployment doesn't even pay you. Why? Because they're bankrupt. If you go and read the congressional records, 1992, of Henry Gonzalez, and I have them in the, they're in the Project WAM Code as well. Congressional records of Louis C. McFadden, congressional records of Henry Gonzalez, congressional records of James Trafficking. All of these people say that the United States was bankrupt, okay? So what are they paying you if you're collecting unemployment? They don't have anything to give you. They didn't put anything of substance or intrinsic value in your hand. So the only thing they're doing is operating in a trustee capacity. The moment you give them that social, because the social is tied to the hypothecated and pledged debt of the ens legis legal fiction, which they have ran up into the billions and the trillions of loaning that thing out, and the principal plus interest that it brings in for their benefit, not yours, okay? So the only thing they're doing is going to get these credits to pay you out of your own stuff. So let's destroy that fraud right there. Number two, as far as if they're filing income taxes, that's a fraud in and of itself as well, because it's not income. You're exchanging something of substance, sweat equity, your labor, in exchange for what they call wages. So when you do a filing, they're only giving back to you a portion of what they've already taken, and you never were paid in the first place. So the whole thing is a sham. What I would suggest is, being that all of this is commerce and the democracy, the supreme law of the land is the Uniform Commercial Code, that whatever contracts that they enter into with these people, they reserve their rights. Okay?
Can you repeat that last part one more time about the contract?
In the democracy, the supreme law of the land is the Uniform Commercial Code. Contrary to popular belief, it's not the Constitution. Why? Because the democracy is not constitutionally sanctioned. Nowhere in the Constitution does it mention the word democracy. It mentions republic. Okay? So the supreme law of the land is the Uniform Commercial Code. Everything is commerce. So if you're going to enter into contracts with these various people, I suggest they reserve their rights. If you don't know how to do that, educate yourself.
Okay, I think Don has a question.
Okay.
Yes, I do. My question is with, there's a judicial order in Virginia right now where anything that's not a due process matter, as far as a court proceeding is concerned, has been suspended for at least 21 days. So then if one wants to declare their nationality in the courts through a name change, it could potentially be postponed indefinitely. So what is another route that someone could take to affect to get the same effect without having to go through the courts if that's no longer available?
Okay. This is what they can do. They can go to googlescholar.com. And I don't know, I posted back in the group, in the Paleo-American group, various states' Supreme Court case laws on common law name change. And under the common law, one has the right to change his or her name as long as it's not for fraudulent or deceptive purposes. I'll say that again. Under the common law, one has the right to change his or her name as long as it's not for fraudulent or deceptive purposes. And this is the reason why I've been telling people to study the common law. Yes, it is recognized, and these court cases are after 1938. This is when the vast majority of these states were operating as a democracy. There are Supreme Court case laws across various states. You can go and look it up in Google Scholar. Educate yourself and look up common law name change. And these Supreme Courts or these various corporate states now have upheld the common law name change. It's your right.
So then, as a follow-up to that, let's just say you go that route and do a common law name change, and I may need to, do some studying on my own, but I'm looking at it from the perspective of using getting a passport as an American national after I get the name change. They normally want to see a court-ordered name change as opposed to something other than that. So I'm trying to make sure that that route is still viable, and this may be a better question for Aseer, but that route is still viable if you use a common law name change instead.
Well, you got two choices. There's also quote-unquote federal appeals case law, and you can read this case, and it dealt with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar versus Oldsmobile. What Oldsmobile had done, this is a case law. When Kareem Abdul-Jabbar had changed his name, Oldsmobile took it upon themselves to use his former and his leaguers. I think it was Lou Alcindor's. I can't remember exactly what his birth name was. And he sued Oldsmobile. Oldsmobile tried to say that, well, because you're now Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, you forfeited the right to your birth name, so it's just out there. We can use it. The court upheld Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's suit, saying that because one changes his or her name does not mean he loses rights to the old name.
Nice. Okay. Excellent.
Yep. And I have that case law as well. It's in the OneDrive. It's in a document called, I think it's called McRae Ultra. It talks about common law name change. It's in there. That case law is in there.
Okay.
So you could do it one or two ways. Personally, if you are more, this is the reason why I tell people you could take the old name, bond it up. This is what I've been telling people. That's the reason why we take it and claim it as a vessel in the nationality process, and then you turn around and you bond it up. Why? Because that's all it is. It's a vessel. Even when you get your passport from, quote unquote, the United States of America, that is not the United States of America. That is the corporation called the United States of America. Look up how they got it spelled in the passport. It's all capital letters. But if you go to the GPO, Government Printing Office Writing Style Guide, they specifically tell you in section 3.2 how proper nouns are supposed to be spelled. So the United States of America is not the geographical location that is in your passport. That is the corporate entity. So if you want to still keep your legal fiction doing business with that, you can do that. Just make sure, because it is a contract, you reserve all your rights. Why? Because you're doing business with a corporate entity.
Right. Okay. Thank you. That makes sense.
Reservation of rights. There's a saying, he who does not reserve his rights in the beginning has none in the end. You understand what I'm saying? There's also a maxim of law that says fiction yields to truth. Where there is truth, fiction of law exists not. There's another maxim of law that says that a fiction cannot be used to work an injury against someone. So as long as you keep it within the commercial parameters of what they have acknowledged as the supreme law of the democracy, the Uniform Commercial Code, then guess what? You're stuck with that. They have to deal with that.
Mhm.
They have to deal with that. Why? Because all of their documentation shows that they are not who they say they are.
Mhm.
That's why UCC 1-103 is so important, because it protects you from fraud, duress, coercion, bankruptcy, misrepresentation, principal agent. Y'all need to go and familiarize yourself with that, those who don't know it. UCC 1-103. 1-308 is reservation of rights under protest or without prejudice. And UCC 9-311 is the supremacy clause of the Uniform Commercial Code, which deals with a treaty, statute, or regulation versus a lien creditor. A lien that is pursuant to a treaty, a statute, or regulation of the United States supersedes the lien creditor's interest. Okay. Did that cover it?
It did. Thank you very much.
Okay. Next question.
I think we're about to get ready to roll Aseer in, but I do want to say this. This is Empress speaking. I don't want people to get overwhelmed when they look at your website and your page. I will say it is a lot of information. I think it would be best if people have someone that they're going through this with or learning with or embarking on this journey with someone, to get with someone that's already studying, or create a group of your own and decide to pinpoint with someone that's already studied to get kind of like an order going. But it's best to study in groups of like-minded people to not scare you and run you away from the information, because it can get overwhelming, especially when you're relearning and unlearning the lies. You're learning the truth, but you have to unlearn the stuff that you were told, and you have to reprogram your mind. So it's just a suggestion from me, because I've been through it, and I was blessed to have a group come together at the right time and in the right place, and I just jumped on the wagon, and I was able to, learn a lot in a short amount of time, and it all made sense. And the parts are still coming together, but it's just one of those things where it can be overwhelming, because you're going to go through emotional things as well, as far as being upset and being pissed off because you were lied to, being upset with, how things were, knowing that, again, you were lied to, and then how things are now. But you'll get through all of that, and it'll be easier for you when you're studying with like-minded people who all have the same goal. I know my goal and the groups that I deal with, our goal is straight-up ascension. So once you get to the meat of those things, it'll help you disseminate the information, and it'll all come at the right time and the right place.
I agree. Let me add on to that. Once again, if you are not a reader, and this is not to belittle anyone, then this path is going to be a very rough and rugged road for you. Some people I know that's really not prone to reading, they'll probably be 5 minutes into a document or a book, and they'll get sleepy. That's letting you know that you're breaking old synaptic pathways and forming new ones. New ones have to be formed in your brain so that you can acquire and hold more information, because you're forcing connections to neural pathways or reconnection to neural pathways that you haven't used in quite some time. If you get sleepy, stand up, walk around, go outside, take a breath of fresh air, wait a few minutes, then go back in and get some more information. If that's all that your attention span can hold at that time, maybe 15, 20 minutes, then accept that, take that. Because anything past your attention span, you're not going to retain it anyway. You have to build up to it. It's like a marathon runner. Marathon runner doesn't get out there and run 26 miles never having even trained. He has to build himself up, or she has to build herself up to that, to where they can run that marathon. It's the same way with the brain. You have to build your attention span up to where you can read for an hour at a time or 2 hours at a time and retain that information. So if you stay within Project WOM code, starting out, if you stay within Project WOM code on the site, those documents, and you stay within the Droit Sanguinis section, those documents starting out, you will get a good comprehension of what's going on and where you need to be. That's your foundation. I purposely designed that for you to build your foundation. Okay. I yield the floor.
The floor has been used to Aseer, the Duke of Tears. Aseer, you're live.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I can hear you, brother. Peace and love, man.
Islam. Great one. How you doing, man? Happy
holidays. Man, all is well, family. All is well. This is what they've been waiting on for years, man. Everybody been asking, when y'all gonna do a show?
Islam, right? We finally got it. Right at the end of the world. It's great. What's going on, everyone? I don't know if you can see me. I was trying to come in on this thing. These things always be messing up for me. But as long as you can hear me, I guess it's good.
Yes, we can hear you and see you.
Oh, okay, cool.
I can see you and hear you.
Islam,
brother.
Everyone. So what's going on? Anybody have any questions? We want to start or just go?
Well, we did. We kind of started with just kind of going over what things are going on, and ObaShango-El kind of touched on the fact that this has nothing to do with us as far as how fighting within or whatever's going on between the parties or whatever.
Right.
But you can kind of touch on that and give your point of view in regards to that, and then he just kind of went into the possibilities of, since we have our bonds in place and you two have created a way for us to bring ourselves back to the land.
Right.
It has given us an opportunity to make the best of this rather than the worst, and it's kind of pushing us away from the media part of it or the circus part of it, because that's basically what it is. And going in, okay, now moving forward, these are the steps to be taken, what we should be looking into. So, ObaShango-El is still doing the ones and things like that and helping people. Gave us websites and those things. So, just kind of go from.
I think it's the same situation as the Grand Chief said. It's this really has nothing to do with us in the sense that we're caught up with their version of the sequence of events, because this whole situation was used, is being used as a Hieronymus machine. A Hieronymus machine is like an old alchemical term. It was like a machine that basically worked not from the parts, but from the intense will of the person building it. You know what I'm saying? More so than it actually being a structural thing that actually works in the world. It actually works based upon somebody's compulsion or their will to make it work. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of what's happening with this corona thing. The corona situation was almost like a biological weapon, but very low strain. Like, it wasn't like it didn't have a heavy efficacy, meaning that it wasn't made to last. Like AIDS, they kind of made that to kind of last, you know what I'm saying? But what they don't tell you is that your melanin has a way, if given the right structure, to be able to bypass any disease for the most part. That's why you ain't never seen nobody die of AIDS, like you personally know, maybe for the past 10, 20 years. So this virus was basically a glorified flu. And when Bill Gates and them patented it back in, I think, the 80s or whatever, what they do is they give their entertainment people and their writers and stuff access to it, and they find ways to put it in stories to basically precognitively make you associated with the idea, with the what's the word? With the possibility that this could happen. And so the mind then extrapolates a whole reality for this thing to exist in and happen. And therefore, when it starts to happen in the physical reality, there's not too much pushback because you've already been conditioned for it. So they did this with the virus. And when China recently called in the debt note saying that they don't want to pay no fake money for real money no more. Y'all got to pay us real money. That's when they dropped it on them. And so when that happened, China went into lockdown. But to me, also, this is karmically China's karma, if you will, for what they was doing to the Muslims out there, cutting them up and harvesting them and all of that. And basically what happened recently was that China elevated the state to the level of God over there. So anytime you make the state God, Allah is going to come and just destroy your shit. You know what I'm saying? So that's basically what happened. And so the United States intelligence agencies use this as a means to try to push their former agenda, which was also to push China out of Africa. So all of this is happening at the same time that all of the indictments and everything came to cure. The indictments that I talked about maybe 4 or 5 years ago on a joint called the Big Debt Global Reset, all of those have come to cure now. So this is over 250,000 documents. So one of the things they did to start to prepare for this was they faked Epstein's death. He's in the bunker somewhere, snitching on everybody. They did the same thing with Weinstein. They got him snitching. They got Cosby snitching. Everybody snitching on everybody. So basically what's happening is they decided to use the corona thing. They said, okay, if they're going to try to pump this as a fake virus in retaliation for the impeachment and stuff not working, then what we can do, this is Trump and them, what we can do is use this as the Grand Corral roundup and use this as a cover to go round up everybody. And then use this as a means to establish the stimulus aspect of this, to what we're trying to do, and then basically just run everybody out. And we'll use the next 21 months or whatever to basically push this agenda. So that's what they're doing. So when you started hearing all of these celebrities getting the coronavirus, that's the low-key code for house arrest. They all being house arrested and being put under heavy restriction. The Queen, like I said, Queen Elizabeth, if you want to call her that, Elizabeth, she's on the run. She got locked out of Buckingham Palace. Nobody knows where she at right now. And she may be talking about abdicating via proxy. So look out for that. Another thing happened, Merkel and Harry caught wind of this right after their wedding. And so that's when they started making deals to go to Canada with his cousin Trudeau, who's also the cousin of Celine Dion, who also was involved with the sex rituals with R. Kelly and shit that was going on at the Epstein Mansion. Because R. Kelly was one of the people that used to go there. They got a list of people that used to be there. So all of this is to say that everybody's using the corona thing to pump off their own thing. So Soulja Boy, for instance, he's been selling mad soap, selling mad paper goods. He's blowing up. So anybody with any type of situation already in play, they can kind of like pretty much blow up right now, because the corona is basically there as a shield, as a cover for all of these different ops that's going on simultaneously. So what I'm saying is, while all that's happening, we who, let's say, followed the brothers' process and follow that Pulaski and all of that, we all together constitute a caliphate that has basically already been underwritten by the main lien holder, who is Brother Toriano. So because he is the main lien holder and we are all members of the same constituency, both in his situation and for those people that I've helped through the Sultanate establish that, this is the best time for us to be able basically to just set up our financial base to be able to start to take advantage of the present situation. Meaning, it only costs $150,000 to set up a credit union. I believe it's about $250,000, $350,000 to set up a bank. So really, if we're the only ones bonded to gold and silver, and he's trying to put the gold and silver back behind the money anyway, all we need to do is basically put up a bond for both a credit union and the Shiora Consul Bank. And then what happens now is the Sultanate would act as the third party government coming in now and enforcing the United States to act as the transmitting utility, basically as the discharger of whatever bonds we put through based upon us being nominated by the main lien holder to establish the financial efficacy for the Moors and those people who are outside of this present conundrum. And really, it's not that hard. That's why you see with China, this was about them being pushed back economically for another 3 to 5 years. And it only happened after they called in the debt. They did the same thing to Venezuela. They did the same thing to Iraq. They did the same thing to Libya. Whenever anybody is starting to come from under the yoke of the fake money situation, the powers that be, and it's not all of them, but the main ones that's been doing it is now flipping it. But because of this present situation, they all on the run. So this is the best time for us to get all of this popping now, while all of the blacks and the Negroes is caught up having to follow through with the democracy games, because we're outside the democracy. What they did was they brought Moors out of the empire and brought Moors out of the republic to try them into democracy. What we're doing is taking Moors out of the democracy, bringing them back into the republic, and then ensconcing them in the empire. That's why it's different. So whatever instrument that they've used to bond you to it, you got to remember, it don't matter, because we were never supposed to be citizens of the United States to begin with. Therefore, if that's the case, we were never citizens of the United States to begin with, and therefore, anything that they tried to erroneously put on us, they did so as a means of denationalization. Because denationalization is not just about denationalizing you, it's about taking your money. It's about stopping you economically, first of all. You know what I'm saying? So now that we have the ability to reestablish the economic basis for all of this, all we got to do is basically privatize what we've already privatized. Basically do what we've been doing. You know what I'm saying? Because we're all in the private anyway. So everybody that's basically in Pulaski, that basically represents the first county by which all of the Moors, right, have basically sought to repatriate themselves. This act of nationalization is an act of repatriation. So that then means, as a constituency, we're basically where the so-called 13 colonies were, or 13 states were, at the time that they took over the country. Because they were both in the same we're both all basically in the same political situation now. We're the only free people in America. Because we're the only ones bonded by gold and silver, and our nationality is not predicated on the United States. So this is the best time for us to do anything that we want to do in that capacity, because now we have the help.
Facts. I think we're all kind of like dumbfounded in the sense, like you hit on some amazing points.
Islam.
So a question that some people are asking is, with that being said, so let me just kind of break that down real quick. So basically what you're saying is we're already in position. So now it's time for us to make sure all of our paperwork is in. We have all the receipts, like King Shango-El stated earlier. Make sure if you have to travel, you have everything in a nice little packet or a folder. So you know, got to ride around with your papers for a little minute until we get a little bit more settled. But
technically, that's not to cut your wisdom. Technically, that's the passport and the passport ID card, so long as you are on your non-citizen national, you know what I'm saying, Moorish American type of steeds.
Right, but everyone doesn't have that. That's what we were kind of talking about.
Right, because the reason why they don't like the passport and passport ID card is because the I don't know what the hell. Hold on 1 second. Something happened on my phone. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can see you and hear you.
Okay, you can see me and hear me. Okay, great. What they've basically done is, if you notice on that ID card, there's no address. You see? So if there's no address on it, you got to understand that means it's falling outside of the Libra code situation. That's why when you whip it out on certain pigs, they want to ask you if you got anything with an address on it. Because the address is what's tying them to the fiction, which is the democracy, which is the occupational government, which is the United States. However, if that address, again, is associated with a Moor or a consul, you see what I'm saying? Then really, that's really just a trading post to us now. You see what I'm saying? Like, that's just the place where you doing your government business. Sorry, I don't know.
No, we hear you. You're good. You're good. That makes sense.
Is he still with us?
I think we lost him.
Yeah, I got kicked off a little while ago and had to jump back on. So.
Okay.
Other people were telling me too they was kicked off.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say this too till the brother get back on. Pulaski, if you study the history of Pulaski County, Arkansas, it was named after Count Casimir Pulaski. Count Casimir Pulaski was a Polish nobleman who was a vassal to the Ottoman Empire. We know that's an extension of the Moorish Empire. And there's a picture of Count Casimir Pulaski riding on cavalry, and he has the picture of the Black Madonna and Child, and they're wearing fezes, not fezes, but turbans. It's on a flag. He has a flag, a red flag, with the Black Madonna and Child wearing Moorish attire and wearing Moorish turban. That's a painting that was done, I think, in 1878. So Pulaski County, they already know about the Moors. They cannot know. It's impossible for them to not know. And your county is named after them. This is also the seat of government here. So not only that, about 3 years ago, they was also flying the flag of Turkey down on the Arkansas River. It was down there flying. So it was shortly after, I think I put some documents in. But they already know who we are. At first, they tried to fight us back in 2009, but now they're open to Moorish nationality paperwork. It's not a problem. And the database is getting larger and larger. If you just go there to real estate, type in L, scroll down, you'll see all the L's there. You type in Bay, you see all the bays there. You'll see the L bays there. So it's large. So they already know. They already know. This was named after Count Casimir Pulaski, a Polish nobleman who was a Moorish vassal of the Ottoman Empire.
Thanks for sharing that. Aseer he's texting me. He's still trying to dial back in.
Hold on. What I can do is I can call him.
Okay.
Hold on. Let me call him.
Okay.
I'm gonna say this too. Y'all need to study who Saint Corona is. She was a Moorish saint in the early Christian church who was killed by Roman soldiers. She is the patroness of epidemics. And not only that, the epidemic that broke out at the pandemic, or the epidemic that broke out in Italy, it started at ground zero, was where her remains are located. Y'all can look that up. She's a Moorish saint, a Catholic saint, she's the patroness of pandemics. And it's just so funny that the ground zero of Italy is where her remains, for the epidemic, is where her remains are located. Hold on, let me call Brother Aseer just 1 second.
I think they did a movie about that too, about her with the pandemic thing. I can't remember the name of the movie, but they were trying to keep people away from digging her body up, because when they dug her body up, she was supposedly saving the world by quote unquote going into her.
Okay, everybody, I got Brother Aseer on. I'm gonna mute my phone. You got the floor, fam. Brother Aseer, you there? I think he hung up. Hold on. Hold on 1 second. Let me text him.
Yes. Look up. Look.
Can you guys go on mute, please?
Oh, my apologies, beloved. I was excited because I heard what you all were saying, and I was thinking about this movie called Mummy, where
okay, y'all, I'm trying to call them.
Yes,
Okay, good.
Here. Okay, we can go back on mute, guys.
Okay.
Okay, see, I think you were making a point in regards to the.
Yeah, I was saying we can establish we could basically pay for our own liberation and then fund our own endeavors based upon us being a constituency already. So the chief acts as the main underwriter because he's the main lien holder. Then he basically put on the constituency, put out a call for any more to get right. While he was doing that, in dealing with the temple, I was then brought into it by sheiks from the MST of A to establish a sultanate, which is a real government for the Moors. So this way now, if anything or if anybody comes through and wants to do something like the Grand Chief, now the Sultanate can act as a third party the same way the United States was acting as a third party for the Americans. See what I'm saying? Or for the Moorish Empire. Only difference now is the chief has charged the Sultan basically to establish the financial means for the people to receive enumeration for their goods and services, right? So if that's the case, he's nominated as an individual, a third party, to basically handle it via proxy. You know what I'm saying? So this way, everybody can eat. That's a part of the constituency, as opposed to opening it up to a bunch of people who are not Moors, who are not conscious of this, and are also liable of, liabilities, because they still are property, chattel property to the U.S. You know what I'm saying? So all we got to do, basically, is function in the private sector, which is what we're doing, get a census of who's involved, right? Everybody that's a gold bondholder, gold and silver bondholder, basically is a stakeholder in the trust, right? That the Grand Chief has linked up to every aspect of financial and physical and whatever business. So now the Sultanate so now to free him up so he could just figure out that he can't do all that by himself. So he nominates the Sultan, right? Who then the Sultan nominates the Sultanate to then create the actual physical aspect of it. The same way the Senate, the Congress empowered the Senate, you see what I'm saying, to then empower the government to then do what they need to do. Because nothing can be done, because if you have one people and they just come and wipe out another, That's occupation. They're occupying the land, but we have a usufructory agreement with them to do it for a certain amount of time. And so what happened was we fell off because we abandoned our government to go into theirs, or at least that's how they flipped it. You see what I'm saying? And so in abandoning our government, just because it's abandoned, it's still there. It's just not being used. So if they can only do things in a democracy, that means they have no access to the republic. That means we can reestablish or re-annex, or what's the word? Reestablish the republic by establishing a basis for Americans to process their Americanness, as it says in the HJR 75. It says for the swift Americanization of the former Moors, right? Because we're the only Americans. Everybody else is from somewhere else. So
Right.
as the true and only Americans, we're the true possessors of the republic for which it stands, because we're the ones. According to the law, according to the U.S. War Department in 1928, it said that in order for you to be an American, you can only be one of two ways: by birth, and by birth that means you. And by birth, it started by saying those people who were citizens or original inhabitants of the colonies 150 years before the establishment of the United States colony. So that's us. And those people were subjects of a foreign power. That foreign power was not Britain. That was the Moorish Empire, who was in league with Britain, because George was a Moor, right? We know that. Therefore, being that George was a Moor and Charlotte and them was our cousins, this is a family agreement that has to be restructured. So what I'm saying is, if it only costs $150,000 or $350,000 to, let's say, set up a bank, we already got the bank. What we're really paying for in that $350,000 bond would basically be the operation cost, because everything that would be charged, whatever enumeration is created, bonds are created, they will get charged or recharged via the United States, because we nominate them as first and secondary trustee to process the paper. But how we freak it, we gift them a 50% rebate, so this way whenever they process something, they're already being paid for it before it even comes down. But once it comes down, we're able to get it back from them because we gave it as a gift. And anything given as a gift has to be remunerated back to the gift giver.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Then what we do, we establish now a closed loop as to what projects and what communities is going to be funded by whatever requisite costs we put into the United States, because they're processing it the same way they would process it for anybody else they do this shit for. They do this every day. Now what happens is, that's on the private side. On the public side now, we're building everything up. We have everybody in the filing at Pulaski, basically, that's down with this, are all stakeholders. So now we're now the upper 1% because we're only doing business in gold and silver anyway. You know what I'm saying? So now, can everybody hear me?
Yeah, we're here. We're preaching.
Okay, cool.
We listen to you preach. Go get it.
Okay. So once that happens now, we all now have a certain amount of equity that's in the bank, our own bank. Now we have our own basically keys to the bank. Now what happens is, from the bank now we have to create our own mint. That means we need our own postal masters, which we already have. Everybody in Pulaski becomes a postmaster. We have our own security forces now because we have to protect the money, protect the mail, protect the security interests, protect the communities that we're putting this money into. You see what I'm saying? All private, all backed up by the U.S. because they're still getting money out of it. Because remember, that 50 that we put up, let's say if it's 250 million we want, we're going to give them 3 million. They take 50 off top. That 50 they put off the top, as soon as they take it off, we can automatically represent and get that back, because again, that's just a gift anyway. And this
Correct.
is what they set themselves up to do. To be the ones to stand in between everybody in the world's debt and pay it for them. To give them the right to function. So let's use them for what they're there for, instead of asking and all of this other shit or whatever. They don't have a choice at this point. And like I said, this is the Republican form of government is what each one of us as Moors was guaranteed. Mm-hmm. So there is no means or any way out of trying to get out of paying. We just never had a consolidated government that would give us the permission or the right to function like that. So now that we do, we also have the two-pronged system. Essentially, the Thunder Clan is like the Congress, the Sultanate is like the Senate. You know what I'm saying? And an Imperial Foreign Ministry is what's moving everything through the different departments, because each aspect of the Sultanate is a trust within itself. You see what I'm saying? So Agreed. This way, everybody, so now maybe not everybody's going to work in this portion of it. But whatever portion we have enough now where we can basically start to build up the portfolio for all of this almost overnight. Because like I said, everybody's problem is money. Mm-hmm. However, we can't have a problem with money if the brother established a bank. We just have to be able to make it work. So one of the things that we could do just to get our feet wet with it, once we get the bond up, we pay for the bank or whatever, we get the paperwork, okay, it's ready to go. Well, this is when we send one of our young Moors or whoever to Carver. We set up a meeting with Carver Bank or whatever's the oldest black-owned banks or whatever. And now we set up a relationship with them. Look, because we want to see how they do stuff on the back end in their thing anyway. So we nominate 3 or 4 of the Moors, young Moors, to go in as interns. Learn the way that they do it. And now we have the two-pronged system on how to take stuff from their thing, bring it into ours, get what we need out of it, put it back in, and create this loop that we just keep doing. So now everybody's paid off. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. We have our own infrastructure. Mm. And not only that, it's private. So now we want to buy, let's say, 250,000 acres here because we want to build up our own version of Howard or Spelman where people can actually live now and it's private and all that. We can do that and fund it ourselves. You understand what I'm saying? And not have to worry about nobody else. Now all these different other so-called black groups that's out here that need some sort of infrastructure backing or need to figure out how to get their life together, this is where we come in now. Now bring us your proposals. We'll look it over, and then we'll nominate a sheik or somebody there to know how to do such and such and help you do it. Now when it comes to different countries, we can go and put a bill of lading to these embassies through our Imperial Foreign Ministry and tell everybody, hey, the Sultanate, Yalamonacanos Estados, on behalf of the Thunder Clan Armat Moors, is basically open for business. So we have a X amount of, let's say, a $2 billion spending budget. We want to invest in the infrastructure in your country. Now we doing that. Now, great. We want to stop niggas from enslaving niggas in Libya. We fund a private military force to go in there and kick them niggas out. Easy. Like this is what they do every day. Same thing. We want to help the people in Venezuela do whatever. Okay, we're gonna open up a Imperial Foreign Ministry out here. We're gonna open up a school or a business or whatever. And to do it, we're gonna employ the locals. And while they're employed, now we're gonna basically gift the country X amount because we ain't paying for nothing. We're gonna gift the country X amount of this or whatever. And this will give us rights now to do whatever we want to do there. We can do whatever we want to do. Right. Imagine everything that we're talking about, but it's actually because corporations do this every day, but they do it for the detriment. Now we're doing it for the betterment. For the good, for the love, yes. Right. Now we're going in. Great. You got all these orphans. Brazil, you don't want to do nothing with these niggas? Great. Sign them over to us. You give us $20,000 a head. And with that $20,000, we set up an account for them in their own money, right? But then we're now bringing them in here to be able to get out of Brazil, get the Moorish education, send these niggas back to Brazil. Now we got Moors that's successful to be able to go into the country of Brazil and start to take over the political infrastructure. That's what I'm talking about. Long-term shit. Putting the kids in position to become the future leaders like they supposed to. And the ones you get is the ones that's at the bottom. And those are the Asiatics in any country in the world. We could just go there, buy a whole bunch of kids, or support, build an orphanage, get a whole bunch of kids together, educate them, get them straight. Now within 10, 15 years, these are the kids that are now going to college, coming back with education, got estates. Now we ain't even got to do nothing. We ain't got to worry about how we're going to have a relationship with Indonesia or these people, whatever, because we done paid for half of their GDP. And the beauty is we're not paying nothing. The United States is paying all of that based on what we put up, because we'll be running the republic. They'll be running the democracy. And even in the Bible it say that. Don't it say that the devil will be given his 1,000-year reign over here, and then the kingdom of heaven will be over here?
Yep.
So we just fulfilling the prophecy. But private, though. This ain't for everybody. Not everybody can do that. It's for those people who received the call, who understand what's up, went through the process, got their nationality straight, like you were saying with the passports and stuff. Okay, if they freeze in the courts for the past next 21 days, then what we could do, like the brother said, do the common law joint. But this is how we freak it. The paper's going to be open, so just take a little legal notice out in the paper for 30 days. After that affidavit of publishing runs for the 30 days, we get that back from the paper, from the newspaper. Then we do an affidavit of notice, right? And then file that into the county. Get a certified copy from the county that says that this was actually recorded, and this was actually recorded in the public venue in the legal section. That's it. That's a court order. Now, if they try to expunge and try to be like, oh, well, you need a judge to do that, whatever, then we can get into the other part. But for the most part, the legal notice can take the place of the judge in the meantime.
Okay, repeat those steps one more time. Legal notice.
Okay.
Run it in the paper
for the legal notice in the paper for the name correction. After the legal notice runs for the month for the name correction, then we flip it. Get the affidavit of publishing from the paper. Do an affidavit of name. Right. Do a notice or affidavit.
Hold on 1 second. Here. Hey, can everyone go on mute except for Aseer, please? And King Shango needs to stay off mute. Everybody else needs to be on mute. Okay, Aseer. We were at the legal notice. Okay, run the legal notice.
After legal notice, put the legal notice out. And then once the legal notice goes out for that month or whatever, when you get the affidavit publishing back, then we do an affidavit with the affidavit of publishing for the name correction and file that into the county at your domicile then. Need a certified copy of the affidavit that the name was corrected, which is the proclamation, and the affidavit of publishing. That's it. That should be it. Then take that now, like we would do everything else with the Social Security update, and then follow the same procedure from there until the courts open back up.
Love it, love it, love it. Okay, we have a few questions for you, Aseer. We have Cheryl. She said, could Aseer go through the documents of what are needed now for the passport? She said she's not sure if the information has changed, but she wants you to run through the documents that are needed for the people that are getting their passports in their headgear with their nationality claims.
I'm not. Has everybody on the phone gone through the process with myself? Because if not, I can't do that.
I got you. Okay, because I don't think everybody on the call has. I think that, okay, so there should be a question that we'll get answers to, because I know everyone in my group and Don's group here and Mo's group has done the passport or are in process, like it's gone out, and we've all signed contracts with you and things of that nature. So that'll be something we'll ask to answer, in another group setting. Okay. Anyone else have any questions? You can post them or go ahead and take the time to ask now.
Peace.
Peace.
Hello. Peace. How are you? I'm calling from Soco, Puerto Rico. How are you, brothers and sisters?
Borinquen. How you doing, brother?
Borinquen, yes.
That's right.
El Salvador.
Yeah. Sí, el moreno. Rayo ObaShango. Yeah. Yeah, everything is good over here dealing with nonsense, but it don't apply to me, so yeah, being a square council, thanks to the Moors, and for the past almost 30 years, I'm in tune with this. So for me, it's a great honor to be on this call today.
It was.
Yeah, I don't want to hold you guys up. I'm listening that you brothers and sisters talking about a passport. What kind of passport? Not a U.S. passport, no?
Yeah, it would be a U.S. joint, and you could get it because Puerto Rico's still a part of it. So we would basically get it in your free national name and headdress. But the type of passport is passports for citizens and passports for nationals or non-U.S. citizen nationals. We Moors are non-U.S. citizen nationals because we can't be United States citizens because we were Republicans, we were Americans before they established the United States. So we would be referred to as nationals because we occupy the national identity of the people. Oh, like, where does that come from?
Well, I've been traveling domestically with no problem,
Yeah.
Okay? I've been traveling 19 years back and forth domestically from New York to Puerto Rico, and I have some issues.
That's still America.
Yeah.
It's still America. It's just that now what's happening is with the census and everything is they want everybody to identify with their national identity of origin. So now is the time to actually define, what we are as individuals, both publicly and privately. So the United States the citizen passport and the non-citizen national passport look basically identical. What makes it different is all the corresponding documentation that goes with it. See, most citizens, they just going to send the money, the picture, the application, and that's it. We, non-citizens nationals, when we send off for passports and passport ID cards and stuff, we got to send the application, the picture, the affidavits, all of the documents, all of the stuff that we define what we are, and then let them know. And then that's the information they put on to the document, whether it be the ID card, the magnetic strip on it, or whatever. But they don't want everybody to know that there's a difference. So what they do is just basically say, well, because not so many people fail for national passports, we don't create them just for nationals. So if you're going to be a national, you have to send us accompanying documentation to show and prove it. Which then means, in order for you to be a national, you define it, not them. So anybody online talking about, I got a national passport and I got it from the U.S. and it say national on it, they lying. They don't exist unless we create them for our government or whatever, and then put them online to work in tandem with the United States joints we already got, because we are able to get U.S. joints, U.S. passports, U.S. passport cards, but then we can get them from any other country we want to, because the U.S. joint is the main joint in the world. So as whack as it is, it's accessed everywhere. So once you nationalize it, as the Grand Chief said, and bond it up and all that, now it becomes an instrument that basically is one of the highest instruments in the land. Because again, it's against the law for United States citizens to take pictures with headdresses on and have titles and nobilities and stuff on official documentation. So if that's the case, how are we getting them?
So right now you're getting this passport.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting this passport. So is it the same application or is it a different application?
No, it's the same application. It's just a different procedure in how we do it to retrieve them. So it's a procedure.
So my question is why instead to go, because I don't know, do we falling under the jurisdiction?
The restriction of what?
No, he said, his question is, are we falling under their jurisdiction when we go in and get the passport as a free national?
No, because you're telling them where their jurisdiction ends and begins. Once they accept the paperwork, like when you send them the application, in terms of how I've been helping people do it, and they'll tell you, one, we don't go through the passport agency. That's a corporation. We do all of this through the post office because that's the seat of everybody's government. So once you process it properly, what happens now is, remember, they can't define what a national is. They can only accept it once a national defines who they are, and they have to process it. So if the jurisdiction is really not over us, their jurisdiction is really just on the instrument, because we're getting the instrument based on treaty. You understand what I'm saying? Based on a treaty with them, not as so it's an application in terms of the paper, but the procedure that we're doing it is backed and protected by the treaty that we've had with these people since before their government was established. You know what I'm saying?
So what treaty do you use? Do you use the 1836 treaty or what else?
Yeah, you could use that one. You could use any one you want, really, but I would say the 1787, 1836. You could use the Treaty of Italy and United States in 1947. Like, there's a bunch of them you could use because they're all applicable to us. The Treaty of Cordoba, Mexico. Really, what I did, I cite all treaties after the surrender of Grenada. So to me, the surrender of Grenada was the very first treaty from the New World, or what this world was going to become from that point on. And all the other treaties that came after were basically all just derivatives of that, because all the countries and nations that came out of that came out of the fall of the Moorish Empire. So these were all Moorish dominions first, that after the surrender of Grenada, those Moors that could maintain their own kingdoms or lost them or went into others, they all of that came from the surrender of Grenada. So that's really the very first treaty that all of Rome is obligated to. Because remember, there was no Spain in 1492. That was Rome.
So
from then
to why as a body of people, I don't know, you have former government or whatever, or a clan, that why we should have our own passport and have it vested with them?
Well, that's what we're doing, but you got to crawl before you can walk, man. So we got to start with what we already have, and if we have something in treaty that's good in 147 countries, let's use that in the meantime, and as we get our own ID, license plates, and all that stuff in order, instead of creating some stuff or whatever. If this stuff already worked and they got to respect it based on the treaty, let's use that, and then, like the treaty said, once we get our own shit, then we got both. You know what I'm saying?
That's logical. That's 100% logical.
Exactly. Instead of being out here like the rest of these Moors on TV, trying to always talk to some traffic cop about what their rights is in the Constitution and all that, they don't understand any of that. So the pearls to swine get your passport ID card that functions as a license, that ain't got no address on it, that got your headdress and list you as a Moor on it. I done whipped that shit out on police, and police done brought it back to me on some like.
Do you understand? Yes. I have done that with my mother in the car. He looked at it and said, I'm not touching this. I'm not touching it. You have a nice day, ma'am.
Yup, you have a nice day, ma'am. And they kept it moving, right? I done whipped it out on police, and they literally told me, like, yo, this can't be real. I said, well, the United States isn't. I agree with you, but you might want to go back and check it, just in case. He came back with his head down, his hat in his hand, for real, like they know. Then he was bugging, because then he got like a grimace face. I was like, you all right? He was like, yeah, but the thing that really kind of bugged me out, sir, is that it has you listed as white on it. I said, because I am. I said, because I am. He was like, what?
Whatever, anything that works, huh, brother?
This white got white. This white cock got whiter when he was on. I said, oh, because I am. All nice and happy. And he was like...
So you can use that instead to have a license?
You don't have to. However, I mean, I look at it like this. You get more flies with honey than vinegar. I don't have to have nothing. But in the meantime, there's no guarantee that I'm going to run into the type of pig that's going to accept that. So if I can have a stake of silver, which would basically function as, in this case, the passport ID card or the passport with my real information or whatever on it, then I'm going to just use that. So when he stopped me, I'm not going to go into, I ain't got to show you that. I know I ain't got to do all of that. But at the same time, I may have somewhere to go. I'm not one of these Moors that's always challenging shit that really has no reference to me in my everyday life. Like, I know what I am. As soon as I show this nigga the joint, that's it. He going to leave me alone. So I'd rather that than having to, go get your supervisor, go get to this, go get to that. Like, it's easy, man. You get more flies with honey than vinegar. These niggas try to press you to do something and press you, well, we're not going to let you go unless you sign this. Fucking sign it, but secure your rights. You see one day.
Believe me, I've been through that so many times.
Easy. And now no matter what they want to do, it's not going to work because you've already showed them that you're aware of the fraud. So now it's over. As opposed to us being out here, what I'm trying to say, Morris, is that the past paradigm that started from 72 to now of you constantly challenging jurisdiction and constantly challenging this and trying to squat on a house and do all this, you ain't got to do none of that no more, man. We ain't even had to do it before, but, trial and error. We really don't got to do it now because we are the only ones with our own government now. So all we got to do is just put it together. What we really need to do, in my opinion, I said this to the Grand Chief before, is go out either to Pulaski or Shiora Council and do a formal convention where everybody comes as a delegate from a state. No, whatever state you coming from, you the delegate of that state. You dig what I'm saying? And you come and we all sit down and ratify all of this at once. Whether it be the bank, the Constitution, the Sultanate Constitution, the Imperial Farm Ministry. Let's do it all at once. Have a nice banquet on it. Do the prayers on it. You know what I'm saying? Have the priests do whatever they need to do with it. Once it's solidified like that, that's it. Then we send the instant action notice to all of the embassies around the world. Hey, the Sultanate is back. We're doing this, and that. Send a letter directly to Trump. Send a letter directly to this one, and let them know we're here to help. Trump is about deals, bro. So if the deal is good, he's with it. You don't give a fuck. Excuse my language. He don't care. And everybody can say what they want. This nigga's running the world right now. This idiot is running the world. And one thing about him, He about that money. So all we got to do is be in a position to flip that paper. We can do it. He don't care.
I agree.
Trump don't care about nothing but the deal and the money and getting back at everybody who shitted on him. That's all he care about. He don't care about no woman. He don't care about his wife. He don't care about no kids. That's all he care about. Making people who shitted on him look stupid. So what better way to make these people, these Democrats, look like idiots than the back of the Moors play? Are you crazy?
Mm-hmm.
That's the ultimate slap in the face. Mm. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, we already there. All we need is the direct line. Okay, this is who you send the $150 grand bond to for the credit union. This who you set it to for the bank. And we're really not sending this to them to set it up. We're just sending this to them to let them know we're serious. That's really what it's about. Because we don't really even need to do that. But I'm looking at it as a means to, instead of us now, remember the prophet said you're going to keep the European around long enough to teach you how to run a government. So if this nigga is there to process debt payments, then let's use him for that. That's all they're there for.
Agreed. Okay, so...
Hey, Moro.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Thank you to allow me on your conversation.
Thank you.
Are you working on Soberano?
Hey, Morenos, don't forget, we got Moors all over the place, but I'm here in Borinquen, and one day we have to have a brothers and sister reunion in Borinquen.
Let's do it. Come out there. Let's do it, bro. I'm with it.
Yeah, we got to do a fiesta.
Mi esposa es tu panameña.
Oh, okay, ¿habla español ella?
Sí, un poquito.
Oh, ok, suena bien, eso está bueno. Yo hablo los dos. Hey, Mo, I know about you because I knew about you because of Pill Brothers.
Oh, Red Pill Goofy. Okay.
You know, there's the Pill from Harlem.
Okay, so we're gonna go back on mute, and then Aseer, can you give them your contact information in regards to people wanting to contact you?
Sure.
Is there any way that I can ask one more question? I was trying to wait.
We will. Sure. Can hold on a second.
Sure,
yeah, I can.
Okay.
787.
Questions, but that's
no.
787.
No, sir. I apologize. I'm saying Aseer is going to give his information, his email, his contact information, where you guys can write it down. We'll post it in the chat as well, and you guys can contact him off the call or in your own time, and that way, if you desire help with the passports or anything of that nature, just like Toriano gave his information, Aseer is willing to do it as well. Okay?
I'll get it through ObaShango. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, brother. Okay. Aseer, you can go ahead with your information, and then we have a young lady that had a question. After you give your information, you can go ahead. She can ask her question.
Okay, it's on. My info is, you can hit me up at houseofl@hotmail.com. And houseofl@hotmail.com. You can hit me up anytime on there. And on Facebook, I'm under Aseer Ali Cordoba. But don't hit me there right now. I'm banned for another month.
He's banned for another month?
Yeah, another month. They only let me in for like 2 days, and then they banned me right after.
Okay.
I was wondering where you were, shoot.
Yep. Yeah, they ban me constantly.
Okay, we have a young lady with a question that wanted to ask a question while the other gentleman was talking. So we're going to go ahead and ask her. Can you identify yourself, young lady?
Yes, my name is Brandy, and I also go by Aseer, but you can call me Brandy. I'm fine with that. I actually have a series of 4 questions, but I will make them very brief because I know Brother Aseer is very busy. I want him to speak on first the power of words and contracts. I want him to also explain how they have actually manipulated the majority of the so-called human public with contracts and words. I want them to also explain how they are due to natural law and just universal law, they actually are supposed to tell you what they're doing in the movie. That is a public announcement. I also want them to talk about mind control, which he did speak on prior. He spoke on it. He broke that down a lot, but that has a lot to do with where our situation is. I also want him to speak on biblical prophecy as well. I also want him to break down how certain books in the Bible, as far as Enoch, also called as Kanok, and how the words have been changed because it doesn't go back to the ancient Hebrew. I also want him to speak on basically breaking down natural law and what these so-called secret society is supposed to do, because at the end of the day, they are afraid of you. You're not afraid of them. They're afraid of you. And I also want them to actually tell the fear of you knowing who you are. So I'm sorry, I said 4, but I actually went more than 4. So sorry.
Okay, the first one was. Can you say the first one again?
The first one I want to break down. I'm sorry. The first one that I think I spoke on was the actual words, the play on words and contracts, the play on that you agree. And at the end of the day, you have terms and agreements. But when they set these contracts and they play these word games with you and they move these words around and they tell you that these words mean one thing when they mean another thing, I want you to explain.
You're talking about legalese. Right?
Yes, sir.
So legalese, that's the issue. Yeah, legalese is a problem. But that's only as old as the barrister system. The barristers established the legalese, and that was a step-down system from the Praetorian system. Everything dealing with the present stance of Western, the way that we understand Western society, Western ideology, is all coming from decadent Rome. Okay, not the Holy Roman Empire, but because those were Moors. I'm talking about like the decadent aspect of the Roman state. That was all anchored into that. So all the banking systems and stuff that we deal in now, all of Rome, that whole system of human subjugation had been wiped out for centuries until about 1497. And so that's when they started to reiterate everything and started to put everything through the colorable and the public and private system. So as the Grand Chief eloquently said, there's no such thing as a democracy listed in the Constitution, yet everybody is trying to be democratic. So that means that they're not American. If they get people to follow democracy, then those people are not Americans. Those are United States citizens, and they are foreign to the land of America. That's why knowing your origin point is important. Because just because you were born here don't mean that you're from here. And so everything goes back along your free descent name. So we as Moorish Americans, we've always been here and always will be. So they can never get rid of that. So long as we know the law, we're good. That's why one of the things in the Sultanate we're doing is promoting our Punic Latin, which is basically Hebrew, as our national language again. So this way we go back to speaking that. The babies, we start teaching the babies this in kindergarten and shit like that. And then we start, like how the Jews do, how they put the Hebrew writing on everything, we would just put our Latin or whatever on everything. And this is how we begin to speak amongst each other. So our primary language would be our ancient Phoenician Punic Hebrew or Punic Latin. And then the secondary language would be like English, Spanish, whatever. Once we have that language component down, that's it. Nobody can really tell you nothing, because now this is how we're communicating with ourselves, which again puts us back in play with owning everything, because everything in the world that's listed of any merit is either written in Latin, right? What? All of botany, all of law, all of science, all of medicine is all in Latin. So imagine what we're missing in terms of the language component of the actual procedure, the medical procedure of it, if we were actually using the proper language for it. So that also keeps us from being infiltrated. What was the second question?
Okay, the second question was biblical prophecy on how the original Bible that was written was not written in English, how it has been I'm sorry about my voice. It's for some reason it's going away. It has been translated by the scribes. Also, when you go back to the original language and you know the wordplay on what they mean by these words, that's how they trick you up and they get you to legally bond yourself in a not physical, but a paper contract off of what you agree. What you don't sit and do your terms and agreements. I'm going to take it back to a basic, simple explanation on, like, say, a cell phone agreement. You know their agreements, but you never list your terms and agreements. So I would like for you to speak on that.
Yeah, you're talking about a limited liability. That's another
limited liability. Also, I'm sorry to interrupt. One more thing. Also, speak on the actual postmaster, you being your own postmaster, and also how the United States has set up the postal on the maritime law on how you move from vessel to vessel. I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on with my voice. It's just all of a sudden just started leaving. But I'm going to be back out.
Okay, hold on a second. We're going to let Aseer answer that last question. I know you have quite a few questions, but a lot of these things you can actually look at his videos on YouTube or go to his website, and he also sells some of his recordings of videos. He has a plethora of them. I bought like 40 of them, and I share them with my family and my friends, but he has a website that he's going to go over and tell you about how to order those too. A lot of these questions are answered in a lot of those videos and a lot of videos and information that Toriano has as well. So we'll let him ask the question, and then we'll go from there.
That part of everything that you're talking about is really usury. Yeah, that's usury. Anytime that you're dealing with somebody that's trying to make more money off of what your original agreement was, is usury. Whether it's a vig, what they call a vigorish, like when the bookies, when you make a debt with the bookie, they call that a vig. So anything that you pay, so if it's $500, then the vig on the $500 would be $250, and then let's say you don't pay the $250 by the end, and the vig goes up another $250. So that whole situation, that back in the Moorish Empire was how they used to pay the black males. This is where blackmail comes from. And so the adhesion contracts and stuff, this is just their way of trying to flip the usury aspect of this. But in the end, it's just about putting people in debt, because that's the only way that these people can run the world, is by making sure that you have no ability or way to pay your debts. So if when we establish the actual functioning of the bank as well as the credit union, now that no longer becomes an issue for us. We now can facilitate the movement and everything ourselves, you know what I'm saying? But as far as the other stuff that you asked, I definitely have videos and stuff on that you can check out.
Thank you. I appreciate you explaining that. And the last question I'm going to say is that you have to know that they broadcast everything in the movie. Like, people don't believe that those movies are real, but they tell you what they're doing to you as far as what's going on to now.
Yeah, they have to. They got to tell you
look
first.
At the episodes of the 4400, it's going to tell you exactly what's going on right to today. I normally don't speak like this because people tend to single you out and make you feel a certain way when you get to talking like this. But just my spirit that's telling me to talk. But I'm going to continue following you and continue to do what I do, and I'm going to be quiet and let anybody else have the floor. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And we're not trying to keep you from saying those things, because we all are in the same mindset that are on the call, and we all feel the same way, and we all have experienced some of these things. So I don't want anybody to think that I'm trying to shut you out or not let you talk. This is the time to speak on those things. This is the time to speak on those matters. The call is just a snippet of what's going on, and it's, you're right on those issues, but the call is kind of directed towards what we're doing next. But you're right, a lot of that is history. A lot of the movies are saying that, and as Don said, that's basically them giving you public notice through the movies, through what's going on in videos and all the things like that. So that is true. We have another brother that had a call, or had a question. Brother, you can go ahead and speak and identify yourself.
Good. Hotep. This is Samir from Michigan Territory. I have two questions. My first question is, if a person already has a U.S. passport, a.k.a. a U.S. citizen, what would be the process in order to correct that? The second question would be, my given name or government name is Mark, XYZ, whatever last name. Do I have to change that as well? Those are my two questions.
No. Like I said, for us it's a change. Well, for them it's a change. For us it's a correction. So you wouldn't change your name per se. We would just correct everything. So you would have the name you have now. We would just put Il or Bay at the end of that. You know what I'm saying? Can you hear me?
Overstood. Yes, I muted myself.
Yeah, you would just put Il and Bay, Il or Bay at the end of that. One or the other, not both. And then if you already did the name correction or whatever, you would just if you already got the citizenship thing and you did that, we would just do like a correction of the name and just follow the same process.
So I would just complete another DS-11 with the affidavit after the name correction with the L or the Bay.
Right. You would just add Il or Bay to the name that you have now and do a name correction, and then we would correct everything status-wise from there.
Okay. Now, does that still allow us to control our Sesiki by trust that they've been accessing on our estate forever?
Well, you first have to take possession of it. You take possession of it after the name is corrected, and we establish the what you call it? You establish the actual.
That's the reason for the bond.
Let me rephrase it. Everything started with the name. So name is the anchor to that. So if you look at it, the 40 acres is the Social Security card, and the mule is like the birth certificate. So you're going to use that to, as the Grand Chief said, bond that out, so this way you can use that in commerce how you need. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to going just correcting the name and then leaving the old name just there willy-nilly for people to do what they will with it. As the Grand Chief said, just because you corrected the name don't mean that you lose equity in it. It's just that you have a limited aspect of equity in it if you are still a 14th Amendment citizen. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So you have to change the status of the name, change the you would say complexion of it, and then put it back into the system under a perfected title per se, which now is your Moorish name. You see what I'm saying? With the old name now converted into an estate/trust that you, the Moor, who is protected in amity through treaty, has the right to do business through and on behalf. You see, thereby creating a third party for you to again do all your business through, which is what you're supposed to have in terms of being a Republican, because Republican means representative form of government. You know what I'm saying? So when you have representative for your government, i.e. your trust, i.e. your estate, i.e. your proper person, you're in the republic. When you don't, you have to be managed. That's the democracy. You understand?
Yes. So is it possible that I could contact you via the email address that you provided? Was it houseofel at hotmail.com?
Yeah, you just hit me up at houseofel@hotmail.com, and then we could set up a time to consult on your situation. And then, like I said,
that would be great. That would be great because I don't want to take up everybody. I don't want to take up everybody's time on the call. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sorry. I just want to be considerate of the people's time and kind of yield. but I had been doing some research on name change and name decrees with the deed poll, and I don't want to make any incorrect moves at this point. So I will reach out to you today, and hopefully, you can get back with me at the earliest convenience. I'll provide contact information as well, phone numbers or whatever.
Okay, excuse me. I apologize, young man. Can someone cut their phone on mute? Can everyone go on mute that's not speaking, please?
It's a shame that we have to continue to say that. Come on now, people.
Right. Respect each other's time, please. Okay, go ahead, young man. You were stating something.
Yes, sister. I was just saying that at this point, he's kind of clarified some things for me, and I had been doing some research on the name change and name decree, and the laws that are governing that under their system, of course, and dealing with the estates. And so there's always different perspectives. So I said that what I will do is actually provide the brother with my contact information and set something up with him. That way we can do it on an individual basis, because some people's situation is a little bit different than others, and things that they need to correct, some things they may have done. So I will reach out to him via email this evening, and provide my contact information. We'll talk then.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Peace. Thank you guys.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
It was one young lady named Lashara. She sent in another question. She said, Islam, my name is Lashara. I did my paperwork for my name change through RV Bay. I have my ID through as well. Although I never got into the process of sending my information to the 7 entities, all my paperwork got lost in my storage in Vegas. When I relocated, what should I do, or what do I need to do to move this process forward?
I think that Allah did that to save you a headache from going through all of that. So it was probably lost for a reason. The RV-based stuff is real cool for research, I would say, but a lot of the language and stuff in that is too patriot-centered, in my opinion. So I wouldn't really rock with that too much when it comes to wanting to see something come from it. You know what I'm saying? What I would do, if you would like, again, hit me up at houseofel@hotmail.com, and we can discuss how you can actually do it in a manner that's conducive and not so nebulous that you actually see something come from it. The problem with websites and stuff like that is that all that stuff is flagged. So the Prophet said each one of us is supposed to proclaim our own nationality. That means that each one of us has to go before a judge or go before whatever and then say exactly what we say we are, as opposed to downloading some paperwork, you know what I'm saying, and mailing it to somebody who's not going to read it anyway. You understand? Because they were told that there's a certain way that this is supposed to happen. So if you're doing it outside of that, then that's not the way it's supposed to go, and they can act under plausible deniability. You see what I'm saying? And act like they ain't got to do nothing because you're not doing it correct. And we're not doing it correct because we've been urged.
Hello?
I'm here.
Okay. So, and I think that kind of goes back to what King ObaShango-El was stating as well. When you need to go, anyone needs to go back to the websites and just pull down the documents and read over them and study them to get their feet wet on understanding how this changes how you look at things and how things are, and it changes your reality. One thing I noticed when you start reading and really starting to comprehend some of the things that you read, the information comes. It will come to you, and it will come in a way where you can understand it and you can be above it in order to make it work for you. Because you got to remember, we're talking about paperwork, but this is spiritual too. It's spiritual first, actually, and then the other stuff comes into play.
Yep. Right.
Let me say this. The RV-based document, dealing with proclamation, I've gone on it, but I had to modify it. It's got a lot of good verbiage in there. But the thing about it is I had to modify it. And the one thing that I did was we came back and retrieved the vessel underneath the treaty, Peace and Friendship, 1787, superseded by the 1836 treaty. And the thing about that is if you go to the treaty and you read Article 3 of the treaty, anything that belongs to a Moor that is found on a foreign vessel, that the United States Republic officials, even though they're sitting in those seats in misrepresentation, you hold them to their oath, and they have to return that back to those who are of the empire. So that's the reason why we had to modify it to get back everything that was put in that vessel against leaders that was predicated on you at birth. Now, if y'all want to go before a judge, you can, but here's the thing. There are no judges. A judge can't be a 14th Amendment citizen. You follow what I'm saying? They're sitting in those seats, and if you go and read in the document I put together, which is the pure 14th Amendment study, if you go to constitutional law, there's a section in there I put in there, constitutional law, reprinted from Ruling Case Law, volume 6, published in 1915, subsection 117, goes into unconstitutional statutes, and any contracts that are hinged on those, they're automatically null and void. So these people that we're calling, if you want to do it for recognition of democracy, you can, but you have the right to stand in common law fashion and take back everything, because there is no one there who's even in what they call in plena vita. In plena vita is Latin, which means in full life. There's no one there who has the ability to grant you anything because they're all dead. They're only given power when you acknowledge them through misrepresentation that they're sitting in those positions that they claim. So if you want to do that, you can do that too. You can do that too.
I was going to say,
I also speak on too, Toriano, I'm sorry. I also speak on the maritime law and how the judges are literally dead. That's why they wear the black robes. They tell you to rise, because at that time when you arise for them, you are rising the dead. It's all a ritual. And so that's why the courthouses look like old ships. If you go back to the old Titanic movie, you look at that when the guy came down to see, I can't remember right now. But anyway, when he came down to see how that ship looked, if you go back and look at an old courthouse, everything is maritime law. I'm sorry I don't know, it just came to me to say, but tell how when they tell you to rise in the courtroom, they're rising the dead, because basically everything is maritime law.
Well, here's the thing. This is the reason why I told everybody. Can somebody please mute their phone, please?
Yes, please mute.
We shouldn't keep having to say that, y'all. We shouldn't keep having to say that. These are adults on this phone. Please act accordingly. Now, back to what I was saying. This is the reason why I told everybody to start by blood. Blood supersedes everything. Everything. Even Noble Drew Ali told you this. What your ancient forefathers were, you are today without doubt or contradiction. There's no one who could change man from the descendant nature of his forefather unless his power extends beyond the great universal creator, Allah himself. This is why I told you to start by blood. Blood in their system is recognized under rules of evidence 702, whether you look at it underneath the federal or the state. Now, based on a blood right, you got the right to step into who you say you are. Based on the contracts your ancestors made, i.e., 1787 treaty, 1836, other treaties that Aseer mentioned, Treaty of Guadalupe, Treaty of Granada. Now you have the right underneath that treaty for someone of lawful de jure representation to come forth in dialogue with you on where there may be a disagreement in regards to this contract. There's no one there in the Republic. It is empty. They are all now 14th Amendment and legal fictions who have been signed over and pledged to the democracy. We're the only ones in plena vita. We're the only ones in full life. So even under admiralty law, if you understand the treaty, it covers that. Go and read the treaty. It covers that. But this is where studying and due diligence, turning off the TV, turning off the radio, staying at home, hitting the books, is going to come in beneficial for you. But some of these people on the phone I already talked to, and I done told y'all this stuff several times over, and now y'all acting clueless. You know, what I'm going to stop doing is picking up my phone. That's what I'm going to stop doing. But for real,
I got a quick question.
Okay.
Sorry to cut you off, brother. I do apologize. But my family owns like a whole lot of land in Arkadelphia, and I wanted to see, if there's any way that I know I can contact you and hopefully we can have a conversation. However, whatever the donation is, I'm cool with that. But I definitely want to see if I can have a conversation with you about that, to claim a particular land and the process, so on and so forth.
Okay, now stop right there. Put a pin in it. Dealing with land ownership, we have to look at certain things. First and foremost, after the Civil War was over, and supposedly, quote unquote, Negroes were availed to certain rights from 1865 to the fraud of 1868, which is the 14th Amendment. We were supposed to proclaim our nationality. That's what Noble Drew Ali had said. No one ever taught our ancestors that. So those contracts that we may have, follow where I'm going with this, because my family owns hundreds of acres in Dumas as well as in Plumerville. We have to look at the status that those contracts were made in. You follow what I'm saying? Now, what's going to have to happen is you're going to have to correct the errors that your ancestors never corrected. Then you can go back based on blood and retrieve all of that. Because blood is the only thing that's not underneath any man-made laws. That's underneath the laws of the Most High creatures created of the heavens and earth. It tells you in the Quran that Allah is the one that makes nations and tribes. And he did that so that we may get to know one another. So that lets you know, just like Noble Drew Ali told us, just like the Quran says, that once you step back into your proper person by blood and then by international law, which is proclamation of your nationality, and also through solvency. That's the reason why we do our silver bonds, because everybody in the group that we have right now, the private group, we're all solvent. We're not bankrupt. You follow what I'm saying? Then you could go back, challenge that land. You could do a private administrative process and drag it into federal arbitration. Once you drag it up underneath federal arbitration and get it arbitrated, then you could go to their administrative courts, because that's all they are, is administrators. There are no judges. They're all dead. The judge then makes it an order, and then you can get the land back.
Peace and love, duly noted.
Peace and love, Ashe.
Okay, well, it looks like we've answered all the questions that have come up. I did get a question, and you may not want to touch on this because I don't think it matters to us, but someone asked, do you believe that Trump will be the last president?
As long as there are corporations, there will always be presidents. He's not the president of the United States of America Republic. The last president was Lincoln.
Okay.
All you had was CEOs after that. That's it.
Okay. So they may have another CEO.
That's all it is. People got to start thinking in the framework of, this is no different than if you go and do business at Walmart, Home Depot, McDonald's, Dunkin' Donuts, whatever you may do commerce with out there. That's all you're doing with the current United States. If you go and read, that's why I tell people study Project Worm Code. I gave you everything underneath there as a syllabus, so when you read this, you will know what's going on. Franklin D. Roosevelt. First and foremost, let's take it back before him. Woodrow Wilson is the one who destroyed the Republican form of government and turned it into a semi-democracy by taking the Treasury and placing it underneath the Bank of England with the Federal Reserve Act. You can go and find evidence of this in the Jacob Thorkelson Congressional Records. I got them in the website on the OneDrive under Project Worm Code, okay, about the democracy. Franklin D. Roosevelt came about 20 years later after the Federal Reserve Act and collapsed the entire Republican form of government, and he tells you this in his inaugural addresses of 1933, 1937, 1941, 1945, that it is going to a democracy now. All right. In 1937, he announced it again in his inaugural address. The problem was the people were too civically ignorant. It wasn't our people, those that they call Negro, black, and colored at that time. Because remember, we were never supposed to be citizens of that anyway. We already had our de jure form of government. You had the tribal government that was established within the empire, okay? We were never supposed to be citizens. Like Aseer said earlier, a lot of our people started abandoning their tribal forms of government in the empire and going in underneath the democracy, because they thought, I mean, not the democracy, but the republic, because they thought the grass was greener. But if you go and read the Federalist Papers number 10 and number 63, I have those in Project Worm Code. They tell you that the republic was set up based off of the empire of Carthage, the Republic of Carthage. That's the reason why you see the Republicans use the elephant. Why? Because the elephant was the symbol of Carthage. They put it right in your face. That's the reason why the democracy or the Democrats use the donkey. The donkey is a beast of burden. And most of your people in the South who did participate in chattel slavery, they were Democrats. And what was the beast of burden at that time? Chattel slavery. So you have to understand, man, these signs and symbols. The Democrats use the beast of burden, which is the donkey. The Republicans use the elephant. And they tell you that they formed it as a Republican form of government. And what was the first republic of the land in America? The first republic was the Empire of Carthage. They're the ones that established the first republic here. Okay? Now, back to FDR, Franklin D. Roosevelt. He told you in 1937 the democracy was well established. The people, i.e., European Caucasians, they did nothing to salvage or save their republic. They was too civically ignorant. And in 1940, a case law came on the books. Because remember, Franklin D. Roosevelt had stacked the Supreme Court by putting Justice Brandeis in there, and those justices that was going to go towards the methodology he was implementing. In 1940, they was able to get a case law on the books. Cantwell versus Connecticut, 1940. And in that case law, they said that all the people now are citizens of a democracy. Nobody stood up. Nobody, man, protested. They did nothing. They assented to it. And from that point forward, from 1940 onwards, whenever they would talk about what form of government the United States was, it was democracy, 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 democracy. And these people are still too civically ignorant to know the difference. They're still going along with it. So all we have to do, stand up by blood, be counted, get your status corrected. That method's already on my website. And become solvent. Aseer already has the empire in place. I have the bank in place. And we ready to walk out, man, on our own terms and conditions. It's there. The door is open. But it's up to you if you're going to commit to doing the studying and the due diligence to make it work for you on your individual level.
Inshallah.
I yield the floor.
Aseer, were you going to say something? Hello? Okay.
I'm here.
Okay.
We're in the best position to do it because the Moors done everything else. Like what the king said, like when his sister talked about the RB-based stuff. Like I said, it's great information, but the God didn't just sit there and just take it for what it was. Like he had to modify it to fit his individual situation.
Mm-hmm.
What we got today is Moors just looking for a little process to be able to flip it, so they don't even got to do no work. They just flip their name on it and then put that in and expect that to work, and then get upset when it don't. But that's going against the basic aspect of seek and you shall find. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, this is a spiritual thing as much as it is physical. So there's certain things that have to be brought into play spiritually in order for you to reach the best out of this. So again, he just didn't leave the paperwork as it was. He had to bring it up to a level that it wasn't. And that's why it worked for him. But other people is not going to have that same position because they don't function from that. You know what I'm saying? Like they want something else with it. So like I'm saying, this is the best time for us to be able to facilitate anything because everybody else is under restriction and obligation. We're the only ones that have done the opposite. We have basically forsworn the debt to be able to be solvent enough to do something for our people. Whereas everybody else is just doing what our ancestors did in the past. They just joining up with the democracy, thinking that's going to work. And all they doing is making themselves enemy to their own land and foreign to the land that they say that they from. So
that's right.
This is the best way for us to do it, and in a manner that's the most timely, in my opinion, as well. You know.
Agreed. So I want to say a couple of things too in regards to, again, reiterating, getting with someone to study or study with, or having a study group, 3 or 4 people or just 2 people, however it works for you, if you are having trouble reading on your own. And I will say, back to what King Shango-El was saying, be that as it may, I read stuff that I wanted to read. This wasn't it. Right. But I'm not even going to lie. When I first started this, I came in on the tax side. I am the OID person. I'm the one that started. So I have a tax firm. I started on that side. And then when I got to the lies, I was like, oh, snap. But I came in on the money and realized it's spiritual and came into it that way. So everybody has their own way of being drawn to this conversation or drawn to the truth as it may be for you. But what I'm saying is, don't feel like, oh, well, I'm not the reader, or I'm not this. I wasn't either, because when it was about them coins, I was reading that. I was reading the tax stuff all day long. You couldn't tell me nothing. I wouldn't put it down. I would go to the tax office, do taxes all day, read all night, 24 hours, 48, 72. It didn't matter because it was about the coin. But when I got to the spiritual side, I did the same thing when it resonated with me. So don't feel like, oh, okay, well, I'm not the reader and it's not going to work for me or whatever. Once you hit the subject base, it's going to resonate with you. You won't be able to put it down. You'll be able to stay along and move forward and read into it.
Please mute your phone, please.
And you'll be able to go into it and it'll work for you. So again, it is a lot of reading. You will train yourself. If you can't get with the main frame of it, find a subject matter in the reading that resonates with you. Because I'm going to tell you something. This is not linear learning. It's not a straight line. You're not going in to learn math equations. It don't work like that. Every single subject is connected, from religion, church, state, spirituality, banking, court system is all related. The history is related. So at the end of the day, find something that's going to resonate with you to get you into where you need to be, and give yourself 30 minutes a night. Then as time goes on and you'll hit a subject matter that resonates with you, you'll start reading an hour. You won't get the sleepy feeling. You'll start reading more and more and more. But this is something that you have to do because nobody can free you. You have to do it yourself. And I'm speaking like this because I've had family members that were in my group that decided, I'm going to go with these people to North Carolina. They're going to do our paperwork for us and blah, blah, blah. They're getting their lights shut off because the paperwork is telling them they dead. You dead. Because you didn't take the wherewithal or have the wherewithal to study yourself enough to know when somebody else is doing your paperwork for you that they're signing themselves up as a trustee over your account. And they're telling the people at the utility companies are telling you dead. So now you have to go fix that. So I'm telling you, as a person that has seen a lot, I ain't seen it all, but I've seen a lot, and I probably have a whole lot more to see. Do this on your own, for yourself, for your bloodline, for your inheritance, for your seeds, for your children.
Let me add on to that, Empress. I'm gonna tell y'all a story, okay? It's not gonna be long.
Okay.
It was back in 2014 after I finished recording the bank. How Brother Aseer has been knowing about this bank for a while. You know how he and I ended up linking up was he found out about me through a brother named Marcus Ogun that stayed in Atlanta, and Marcus Ogun had told me about that he had talked to Brother Aseer about me. Brother Aseer didn't know who I was, so he gave me Brother Aseer's number. We clicked ever since 2012. All right. So he's been aware of what I've been doing for quite some time. There's a brother that used to be in our clan. Well, he was a clan affiliate at the time, and right after I finished putting the last portion of the bank in place, which was the Form 56 at the Internal Revenue Service, his son had gotten in some trouble. The brother's name is Brother Anthony Davis-Nell. Up in Detroit, the police tried to plant some drugs on his son. Some of y'all know the story because I've told you about it before. So he had gotten a call and he said, "Man, I have to go to Detroit." He said, "My son is in trouble." I said, "Well, bro, we get ready to turn things up here." He said, "You sure?" He said, "Man, I got to go help my son. He's my son." I said, "Well, I understand." So he went to Detroit. He had called me when he got there. He said, "Hey, man, isn't there something in the bank documents about court cases and things of that nature?" I said, "Yeah, it's in the security agreement." He said, "Okay, where?" I said, "It's in the collateral article." He said, "Okay, great." He said, "I'll talk to you when I get back." Brother Anthony came back around about early part of March. He left in December and came back the early part of March before spring. So we had gone out to dinner, and I asked him, I said, "Man, how'd your son's court case go?" He said, "Oh, man, the judge threw it out." I said, "For real?" Because I knew it was a drug case. He said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, how'd you get him to do that?" He said, "I used the bank document." Man, my mouth fell on the ground. Because at that time, I was so focused on getting documents done, my paperwork done, that I wasn't even thinking on the level of how many different ways it could be used. So what happened was he got his son to sign over a power of attorney. His son did a power of attorney. They went to court. When the so-called judge had called his son, he stood up and said, "I'm here, Your Honor." And he said, "I have a valid power of attorney for the defendant." He said, "Okay." He said, "Your Honor, I have some sensitive information that I would like to approach the bench with, if that would be possible." He said, "Sure, go ahead." So him and his son went up to the bench. They talked to the judge. He had the charter, the security agreement, the 30-day newspaper notification, where I gave the United Nations, Homeland Security, all 50 states, the president, the treasury, the governor here notice, and the IRS Form 56. So he told the judge, he said, "Your Honor, this here is documents for Banksia Consul." He said, "Banksia Consul is already claimed ownership of this case. Here it is in the collateral articles. He said everyone was given notice, including the state of Michigan, that they are now debtors to the bank. And here's the Form 56 that was filed at the Internal Revenue Service. So the judge asked him, he said, okay. He said, well, who are you in relation to the defendant? He said, well, he also showed the judge the power of attorney. He said, well, who are you in relationship to the defendant? He said, well, I'm his father. He's my son. He said, okay. Well, who are you in relation to the bank? He said, I'm a beneficiary. I'm an L. The judge said, well, what do you want me to do? So I like this case dismissed for prejudice. Failure to state a claim over relief, which relief can be granted, lack of jurisdiction. The judge said, okay, done. Bam, hit the gavel. Case dismissed for prejudice. Failure to state a claim on which relief can be granted, lack of jurisdiction. Then he turned around and walked out with his son. This is the level of enforcement we're getting ready to go to, okay? This is why it's important for everyone to be in uniform alignment, okay? Just like the military. If anybody's ever served in the military, nobody does their own shit willy-nilly. Everybody's man is dress right dress, okay? So when they go through our documentation, we don't look like a clusterfuck. Use my language, but everything is uniform, pressed, prim and proper, dress right dress. And that's all I want to say on that.
Overstood. That needed to be said. And the other thing too is, I want the people who already have their bonds. I'm glad you used that story again, King Shango, because like you said, you were so busy focusing on the paperwork and doing the bond. If you read the bond, you will find 11 ways to use it. Just read the bond. It'll tell you everything that you need is going to resonate with you in those pages of that bond, and it's an answer for everything in it. All you got to do is read it. And then with that being said, I know we kind of getting pressed for time, and I'm kind of getting flagged over here to start ending this. But I do want to say, if you're thinking long term and thinking ahead, be mindful of grabbing seeds, because if you're going to be your own government, you can't rely on somebody else to feed you.
That's right.
So those of you that have heirloom seeds and your grandmama and your auntie and them used to grow stuff in the garden, grab some seeds. If any of you all are ordering boxes from Fruits and Roots and different places like that, save the seeds. Because if our goal is to get our own land, you got to be able to work the land. I'm not the best gardener, but I can grow some things. I'm not going to starve. I'm a big girl. I'm not going to starve. So I advise everyone to think on those levels of being able to sustain yourself and think of the things that will sustain your family and your bloodline. And with that being said, if anybody have anything else to say?
I like to say this, because I was awakened by a young lady in Atlanta, Georgia, named Corliss Stephanie Clayton. If she ever hears this, thank you. And thank you, man, because I had to humble myself and go back to you for my eyes to be open and get on this path. And Aseer has been on the Moorish paradigm longer than me, and I thank brothers like him. You follow what I'm saying? I didn't get turned on until we were Moors, till I went to Dominican Republic and heard it out of that young girl Catherine's mouth, that the Moors are the original people of the Americas and that they own the land. From a child's mouth, 13-year-old. So just know that those on this call, that Aseer's been putting in a lot of work for y'all for years. I put in a lot of work for y'all for years. We're just waiting for y'all, man. But we're not going to wait forever, because this is like Noah's Ark. So once we start shutting the doors, because we got somewhere to be. We trying to get this thing up and rolling. You just can't. You could be miles down the road behind us. Don't think you're going to be able to catch up in one day. It doesn't work that way. So as we're steadily moving forward, because we got some place to be, y'all need to start your journey sometime soon. And that's all I want to say before the doors close.
Ashay. So, Mauritius, Don, do you all have anything to say before we close out? Aseer, if you have any last words, let us know. All right, I guess. Okay.
I was just going to say, no, I really don't have anything to add, but I do want to just kind of highlight a lot of what Empress was saying about studying and how important it is to get in the midst of those who are like-minded and recognizing that this is a spiritual journey, period. First and foremost, you seek first the kingdom and its righteousness, and everything else is added. So just keep that in front of you, and it'll happen. It's going to manifest.
Inshallah. All right, guys, I think we can end this call. Remember, there's nothing new done under the sun. So if you can, wake up 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning and study. After you rested. I know it sounds hard, but hey, you'll get a whole nother understanding or overstanding. I love you all. Thank you all for participating in the call. May there be love and light that lead you. And we are grateful to our speakers, Aseer, Duke of Tears, and that is House of El at hotmail.com. House, HOUSEOFEL at hotmail.com. And we want to also thank King Toriano ObaShango-El. I might have said it out of order. I apologize. And Toriano, that's ObaShango-El.com. That's ObaShangoEL.com. Correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Love and light.
A quick question. Real fast.
Okay.
Just want to know if this is being recorded, and if so, how can everyone on this call get a copy of the replay?
I'll be uploaded as soon as I get it. I'll put it on YouTube.
That's what I was going to say. The prospective speakers will have a copy of it, and you can go to their platforms and watch it or listen. Okay?
Peace and love.
Okay. Happy holiday, Moors. Peace and love. Talk to you all soon.
Happy holiday. Ashe.
Ashe.
Happy holiday.